Fabulous. We'll get started here shortly. As people are jumping in, can you also give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen okay with the slides? Looking at the slides right now. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. As we're getting started, a gentle reminder too that we have closed captioning as an option when you're working with Google Slides for your maybe an English language learner or a student who's deaf or hard of hearing. I am going to record today's session, so you'll see that that will be also shared soon on the Tech and Innovation YouTube playlist, and I'll add that to the DHS info link there also. So welcome. Thanks for making time for this, folks. I know we're all wicked busy, and I'll try to be as succinct as possible. Pear Deck is one of those newish tools for us, and I'm going to demonstrate a little bit about how we can create slides, with Pear Deck, and I want to also show how students will join the Pear Deck also, which is super important. And I'll show you a little bit here how we can access that too. A little heads up here that slides, anytime you have an existing slide deck, this one, for example, is an existing slide deck, and you can just continue contributing to it by kind of waking Pear Deck up each time. And to add that in, if you don't already see this in a slide deck in Google Slides, you can do that by clicking Get Add-ons. So I'm just going to show you this. And again, this is going to be recorded and shared later. So if you're feeling a little bit behind and not feeling like, oh, I'm not sure I can do this in real time, absolutely you can. And you can just pick it up later, or you can send me an email about when can you and I visit about this. This is stuff I really enjoy doing in coaching sessions also. So you'll see that this already says installed. I could search for Pear Deck here, and you'll notice that it even populates here right away when I go to add that. Once it's added, you will see that add-on here, and I'll just show you how it looks when you wake it up. This is a tool that's currently supported by the district, so that's another additional nice perk to this. And I also want to walk you through a little bit about starting any given lesson. So like, for example, this first slide, I just want to show you doesn't have any Pear Deck enhancement. There are kind of static or kind of typical Google Slides in this slide deck, but then there are others that have this Pear Deck enhancement. The nice thing about Pear Deck is that it is a way to add engagement, add some chances for kids to interact with the slides along the way, which is a huge perk to this. When I start a lesson, and this is when you're going to want to join on as a student to have a student experience, and I'm going to show you how to do the creating side after we had a chance to see the lesson on the student side. I'm just going to click on the instructor side here as Start Lesson, and you'll see these tools on the right-hand side are going to stay with you if you have Pear Deck open. And I'm just going to show you a little thing on instructor-paced activity. You could do this asynchronously on the left-hand side for a student-paced activity where they're doing the walkthrough on the slides, or like we're going to do here, it would be more real-time that you would want to do. So either on the same device or a different tab, why don't you go to joinpd.com, and the instructions are coming here shortly as soon as my presentation loads. There's the site, joinpd.com. And that code, that 6-digit or 6-letter code is UPMQFP. And it looks like one student has already connected, and I'll wait for a few more. And I'm also going to add the instructions in the chat in case students need to join a little bit later. And you can support each other along the way. So I've got one student that's already connected at joinpd.com, and I'm just going to add this into the chat here. UPM UFP, and that you would join that at joinpd.com. So you'll notice that I have a separate tab here. I've got 5 students that are already connected. So you'll notice that I have my original tab here where I would kind of do the editing. And now Pear Deck has popped open another tab where I can start my class. So again, if you can support each other in the chat to help get each other on if you'd like to join, but don't feel like you have to. Again, we're just kind of rock and roll. I want to show you what this looks like from the student experience. Shout out to Kas, who recently shared this with first year teachers. Our P1 staff did a nice job of modeling this, and a lot of people were interested, and that was kind of my indicator to continue with this. So this is a tool that's very new to me, so you're going to find that I am I'm still learning more about the tool as if you're familiar with Nearpod, it feels very similar to Nearpod. It's just about kind of figuring out what how it looks different from one another. So you'll notice first slide, this is a Culinary Arts 2 class. This is something that I had designed in summer as a part of the Google Classroom work that I've been working with staff on. And this is one of the pieces where I would invite my kids at the top of a lesson, and I would say, this is a stress check. So it looks like there's an option for students to drag an icon like a slider all the way across. So when you get a chance, just go ahead on your screen, take your slider on a 1 or 2 if you're not feeling stressed, or if you're feeling more stressed, slide that all the way over to 7, 8, or 9 accordingly. And you'll notice that I have the ability then to check in the lower right. I have the ability to check in hide and show responses. So I know right away out of my 7 students that are logged in, mostly are low stress, but I can see that change then in real time, which is super great as an instructor. So that's one way to have students interact with that slide, is by dragging that along the way. Next, I would highlight maybe my learning targets that aren't jazzed up. They're not kicked up a notch with the help of Pear Deck. Here's a couple of extra content pieces, and I'll have these linked up at the BHS Innovation page here shortly. This 10th one is, and if you had attended the first 3 days of class synchronously or asynchronously, you would have been familiar with knife cuts. So here I'm asking you to draw between large dice and the answer to where large dice is. Or if you think that mince is the bottom one, part of our learning targets is understanding knife cuts in Culinary Arts 2. So maybe draw a line from mince all the way down to small fine dice, both ways, both vertically and both horizontally, to get that garlic nice and finely minced before you add it to that risotto, for example. So that's one way we can do that. Again, I can show my student responses. I can do this student by student. I can see how kids are progressing, which is awesome. Looks like maybe I want to check in with that kiddo with responses like that. Thanks for keeping it interesting. So again, this is one of those drawing features that I'll show you here shortly, and how to do that on the student side. Here is another drawing feature where I'm asking you, hey, best choice for slicing onions. Go ahead and circle that one, or just put maybe a purple line on that, so that I can see how you're responding. 1 student out of 8 has already responded that way. So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to, which one would you pick to slice onions based on what we've uncovered in the learning target so far in instruction on the first 4 days? So 6 out of 8 responses are coming in, which is fabulous. And in the spirit of saving time, as I know we're all short of time, here's another way to gauge the same kind of learning, to check in with people and find out, hey, what's just the best for slicing onions? Here you have a choice between 3 or 4 on your side. Again, my side looks a little different than yours because now I'm in instructor mode versus you are in student mode. So here you've got the best choice for slicing onions, choosing, and I'm going to show those responses. A lot of people are choosing chef knife. Again, this is a great way for me to change instruction based on the pulse of learning. Great tool here for formative assessment. Here's an option with having audio included, and I'll show you how to add that audio here shortly. It's a chance to enhance it, especially if you're doing this asynchronously and it's on student choice or student mode, I think it is. For them, student paced, I think, is the phrasing that they use. And I could click into that audio. Go ahead and test that if you can. My word of caution for you is to then add in a transcript at the bottom for students who are new to English, students who are deaf or hard of hearing. That's a really important piece in terms of accessibility to curriculum. We don't want to marginalize any populations with technology or any tool for that matter. So it looks like here, minimum number of knives that's required here for a culinary professional. Here I'm asking you to enter a number. 4 out of 8 of you have already responded. Again, now this is the entering a number, and now I'm quickly finding out some people are saying 3, some people are saying up to 8 or 10. So that's fun to be able to see that rather quickly. Boy, it looks like somebody's done some investing into professional knives, if they've had that many. Thanks for keeping it lighthearted. So that's one of the ways to do that. Again, best choice for slicing bagels. This would be another drawing one. Best choice for deboning chicken. Can you tell I like to cook? This was a fun unit to design when I was doing this. So again, you're familiar with the drawing. I'm not going to go over all of these, but this is a chance for you to ask a really important question for kids at the end of any lesson, at the end of any series of instruction. What questions do you still have? And this is for you to then follow up with kids later. Maybe you could have them added to the chat. This is a great way for us to keep that conversation private. Kids are obviously more willing to share if they know it's just between you and the kiddo. So again, after having had this first 4 days of instruction, what questions do you still have? And maybe ask kids, I need you to put in at least one. And then you might get a kid that, shares many more than that. So that's a chance for kids to enter text. I'm asking you to drag a dot for how you're doing so far. So at the end of 4 days of instruction, how are you feeling? You can drag the dot. I believe it's a greenish dot in the lower left. You'll see that. And I'm going to show the responses. A lot of people are understanding. I'm going to want to work with. It's fun to see these happen in real time. That's really fun to be able to see that. I'm going to hide those responses. And then I would continue on with the other sets of instruction. I'm just going to verify that I have my other. This one is not Pear deck. I just want to make sure I'm covering my bases here with that. So I'll switch back to the presenting side. Actually, I'll do this in edit mode. And I just want to uncover the basics here of what I'm finding when I add Pear deck. Template library, really key piece here for using what's pre-made and already existing. So I highly encourage you just to explore. There's nothing wrong with just opening up a brand new slide deck and just exploring to find out, hey, what is even there? It looks like they have some bell ringers here where you can have kids maybe put in some responses here, A, B, or C. Maybe you have a set of instructions for kids waiting so that when they log into the meet that you've got, these are steps 1, 2, and 3 when I meet with you, those first 20 minutes to clarify, to connect, and to explain the procedures for the day. Here's a chance for you to share out for students here to respond with text, for example. Hey, what did you learn from today's lesson or homework or assessment? What questions do you still have? Lots of options here with great work, great artwork that's already been created. You don't have to be a graphic designer to do this well. Once I've had a chance to select from the library, I'm just going to click back, and I'm going to go into the other, like an end of lesson, some critical thinking. The social emotional is where I got the slider bar for your mood or your level of stress. So again, all I have to do then is click into it once, and you're going to notice it's going to pull right into the slide deck. And now this is where I can tailor this. Maybe I don't want to use the word stress check. Maybe I want to tailor it for a different population. Maybe I want to do this in target language as a Spanish teacher and just ask, ¿Qué tal estamos? How's everybody doing? And then we could tailor that for target language, or, you know, specific to, you could even contextualize it for the lesson. Hey chefs, how are we doing today? You could, again, tailor it for that specific content area. So again, I really suggest that you just peruse, scan through, find out what it is here. They really make it easy. So if you want to change the phrasing, just double click into it. You'll notice that when I edited the top, for example, it edits just like any other slide along the way. One key thing is this bottom part. There's a little bottom part that is specific to Pear Deck that needs to stay. So any chance that you were to have deleted it, it's not going to function as a Pear Deck enhancement. It's just going to look like any other slide and not have that interaction. So this bottom piece is key, where it says, let me go back to it and scan it in here. It says, students drag the icon, this little Pear Deck. It says, it even says to you, do not remove this bar. So anyway, just as kind of a heads up. And of course, the presenter on technology is struggling a little bit here. All right, so I'm going to go back, and now I'm kind of going to go out of the library. The library was here. There were several layers within the library. Here, again, this is where you can add that slide. So if I wanted to greet my kids in target language, or to give them an audio greeting, I could. It's a super easy to use audio recorder and player. Google Slides already has an audio feature within it. However, the nice feature of this is this one has the recorder. That's not something that Slides already has in it. So I'll just click on record and say, good morning, chefs. I want us to lead with this first part of the lesson. Hit pause when I'm ready, save it. I can preview it, and I would just add the audio to slide here in the blue feature, and it shows up as an audio where you can just move it around. So I can make it larger, make it more obvious, audio included along the way. I'm just going to open up a brand new slide and then play around a little bit. If I wanted students to add that text, this is where I had students add in the prompt about, I think it was, what questions do you still have? It asks you, thinking about classroom projector versus student device. I'm just going to update my slide. And then this is where I can just add the prompt here. So I could ask the question of, what 2 questions do you still have? And then when I present it, it will prompt the students to type in their response along the way. If I'm going to do another new slide using choice, you do have the option of adding in images. This is where I use the chef knife. It was like a pick your preferred knife. So I'm just going to give knife 1, knife 2 as an example, knife 3 as an option. I'll update the slide so that's what it looks like on the student side. And then I frequently use a site called Pixabay. If you're in the session, can you just type in pixabay.com and add it to the chat for us? Pixabay.com is a great site where I just put down, I think I just put down kitchen knives. And then this is copyright free. So it's not an issue. You're not worried about copyright. This is a free download. You could do this with any other copyright free images, but I'll just download it. And I'm just going to mark here with an X, and I'm going to click download. I could go back to my slide that I want to add the image to. And that's in downloads, and it's called knives. I think I just need a few more downloads here. So now you can add the image right on top of it. This is where I also had you think about the drawing activity, which I'll show you here shortly. That's another way to be able to do that. So again, here I can put in my question, ... This is where you would prompt your students. They have the choice between knife 1, 2, and 3, where they can add that choice. The number 1, this is when I asked you to share the number of knives that a culinary professional did. You would just update the slide with that number prompt. And again, what I like so much about it is that the data are so visual. And for kids to be able to see, hey, this is what the other kids are choosing, I'm pretty close, or I really need to check in closer to that learning target in particular. So I've already showed you text choice number. You can just insert a page, like a web page, to be able to view it. I'm not sure that that's one that I would choose. I'm not sure that I really see that as a valuable option. But the drawing feature is huge. Maps, social studies, this screams the ability to draw on anything. Maps would be a great way to be able to do that. Again, finding those images at Pixabay, or maybe you even have PDFs that you can just take a screenshot of, add it in, draw. Maybe you have resources from an online curriculum that you can draw from to add along. There's one more tool that I want to show you before I add questions here on the Q&A, and that's the draggable piece, to be able to take a pin from a map, or to take a pin and draw, select which one of those knives. If we're talking about, I don't know, cleaning a pear, that you would want to grab that paring knife, for example. So you can click that, and you can decide, do I want it to be a dot? Do I want it to be more of like a Google pin, for example, or a star? You can really dump some time into making these super polished products, and you can even decide the size of it. So if you want it to be a larger, if you wanted to highlight a region of a country, state, county that you're exploring in your learning targets, you can certainly do that. So that is certainly another option to use with Draggable. So these are the editing features within it. A gentle reminder, you do need to have the Pear Deck add-on added. You can do that by just going to add-ons, which is a feature within slides. And every time that you wake it up, then it's ready to go, and you're going to start that lesson, and then you're going to invite kids to join. I'm just going to do this one more time as I would decide, do I want it to be student paced, or do I want it to be kind of real-time, synchronous, instructor paced, where I'm the one deciding the pace of it. Or maybe it's a Monday and you want it to be student paced, and you want it to be part of your instructions for kiddos to decide their pacing along the way. One other piece to this is there is a report that comes to you. So with the help of Cost behind the scenes this afternoon, I had him play along with about 3 or 4 slides. And then I wanted to give you a heads up that then each individual student has a report where you're going to see that students, and these live right in the Pear Deck folder in your drive. Again, so nice that these sync so well within Drive, where you can then pick out a couple of students. So if you know that a couple of kids aren't showing the progress that you're after, now you can find some more data to then start the conversations that you need to for Monday, whether it's redesigning an intervention or maybe working individually with one of these kiddos on one of these Pear decks. So I'm curious to know, what questions do you have that come up right away? Becky, you have a really good question there. I don't know of a moderating feature like there is in other tools. That's a really good question, Becky. Does anyone else know if there happens to be a way to moderate or to filter content? While I have somebody else chime in if they are aware of this, I guess I want to think about starting these conversations with my students in advance and say, look, I've got something that's really exciting. Or maybe you just know your audience, and if you have a second screen, you can pull that the data up on a second set of on a second screen so that they're not the ones viewing the content. That would be kind of a workaround, unless somebody else knows a good workaround for that. Yeah, I like that idea. Rob brings up a good idea about freezing the projector if you're in class. Peter, excellent additional question. If it's inappropriate, I would just go with the front loading the conversation or sliding the data over to the other ones, because I don't think you have to show. We could test this afterwards to see if every student would then see it if it were inappropriate. That's a really good question. Other questions for the good of the group? Good chance to unmute your mic and ask, or leave it in the chat. Feel free to stay on. Feel free to duck out. I will post this on the Tech and Innovation page, which is linked at the BHS info page. And this will be a part of the playlist, and it'll be a part of the Friday bundle. Send me an invitation if you want to chat Pear Deck, if you want me to test it as the student, if you want me to log in as if I'm the student. That's what we're here to do. Our team is here to support you and for you to be able to test these new tools to enhance engagement. And again, we want to be able to use tools to continue to engage kids and keep them actively engaged in distance learning at Blaine High School. So stay on if you have questions. Otherwise, no hard feelings if you log off. I hope that your family is staying healthy and safe. Thanks for making time for this, everyone. And again, I'll be glad to stay on. I'm going to actually stop the recording now while I think of it.